so much for coming. Today, we're going to talk about, supporting employees through change. And we'll also talk about the programs we offer, but it's really important to me that everyone joining today feels like they leave today with some information that is going to help them in their role if they are either managing change or supporting leadership as they're managing change, or you're wanting to refresh or revamp your onboarding program. So we will have a demo of our program, but we will also have great advice to help you get going, lower no cost ideas as well. So, and for those of you who have not met before, I know we even have some clients who wanted to join today, so that's exciting. But the way that I started First30 was I wrote a book all about having a successful career in what I refer to as a reorg world, where we're constantly losing and changing our jobs. And I did a ton of research for that book. And I spoke to so many people who had gone through layoffs and had been offered outplacement. And I just felt like, and I had been through outplacement. I have been also laid off twice. So I've had that experience, and I felt very strongly that I could really create a program that was better. And so that's how I got started on building First30. And then as I was doing that, Camara Toffolo, who's in the chat today, she'll be there to answer any questions, or maybe not answer them, but at least collect them. So thanks, Camara, for joining. I actually met Camara where I meet many people, which is on LinkedIn, and I followed her. And now over the years, I saw what she was doing, and she is an amazing entrepreneur as well. And so we kind of joined forces, and Camara now leads our participant experience. If you don't follow her on LinkedIn, I recommend it. She is incredible. And you'll see what attracted me to working with Camara as well. So now I'm working on my second book called What Employees Want. And that's all about how to attract, engage, and retain talent. So that's where I draw all of this information from. And of course, I also work with organizations. I go in addition to onboarding and outplacement, I also work with organizations on retention interventions, where I'll go in and speak to employees. So I learn a lot from doing that as well. So many things. We are a proud certified WeBe Canada member. So that means that we're a women-led business, something to consider if you're looking to diversify your suppliers as well. And we have our amazing client Hyundai to thank, because they sponsored First30 to be a WeBe member. So we're really grateful to them for that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a number of different things. I really want to get us grounded in the insights into the mindset and psychology of employees during transitions. Because I know that the great HR people I work with, one of their key responsibilities is to be a coach to their colleagues and their leaders. And so I thought that it would help to start there. Then I want to talk about some advice for offboarding and change management. We'll look inside First30's outplacement program. So that way you can get an idea of how we support exiting employees if you decide to work with us. We're also going to then shift to talk about employee onboarding. We're going to talk about low and no cost ideas. So again, I want you to walk away today feeling like, wow, I have some information I can use right now. And then we'll talk about an overview of our onboarding programs and how we can help you to build, refresh, or revamp your onboarding program. As I said, Camara is in the chat, and we are also recording the session. I just had to look. I'm like, oh my goodness, are we recording? Yes, we are. So we're recording the session. So you will also get a copy of the replay once, probably not today, but tomorrow. I don't want to interfere with anyone's Halloween, which is coming up. I know Thursday is probably a busy day for people. All right, so we're going to talk about now the mindset and psychology of employees during transitions. And I don't just mean restructuring and layoffs. We're going to talk about what transitions are, and I think that's also a good starting point for conversations with your stakeholders and leaders. We do not like change. Psychologically, we are not, we don't accommodate change well. So we should be thinking about that, how little change can make such a big interruption in people's lives. I love this book. It's called The Catalyst, and it's all about how we do have difficulty with change and some ways to overcome those difficulties and meet people where they are. So this is a book I would recommend picking up. It's a really quick read and it's a great read, and it will, I think, help you to become a better change management coach. But also it helped me for sure, just in everyday life. So this is one of the reasons change is so difficult. It doesn't look very comfortable, does it? So you're kind of going through this journey, and there's some really messy periods like giving up and, this informed pessimism. These are tough times and it's difficult to go through it. And we're going to talk about when layoffs happen, why it is even more difficult, both for HR and for people, and where leaders might be in this process when changes are announced. But what is driving this uncomfort, this is discomfort and discontent, and even a huge impact on our well-being when we are going through change? Especially when it comes to being layoffs being announced or restructuring being announced. It's because we do not have power over our own outcome. I spent many years studying well-being. I worked at Unilever, and that was one of my key areas. And I found that this is one of the feeling like you do not have power over your own outcome is one of the things that drives people's to the worst places psychologically. So it's important to think about this when we go through organizational change. Because we feel helpless. Nobody likes to feel helpless, right? There's nothing we can do to change our outcome. So that is something important to consider as we're announcing changes. But what constitutes as a change? There are so many things. The one is, new office space. So think about going from open plan, going from having an office to open plan. I don't know if anyone on this call has ever led your organization through a change like this, but wow, it can be really taxing on people. And it's almost like the anticipation of the change is worse than the experience once the changes have been implemented. It's really interesting what happens. So back to the office is another one that is really difficult for folks. You can imagine the turmoil that it can lead to in people's lives, especially if they've got used to working from home every day. And we see it in the newspaper, like all in the news all the time. I shouldn't say newspaper, that's so old-fashioned of me. In the news media, on your apps, on your news app, on your phone, all the time, you'll see that. And then, of course, new managers, right? We might have grown very attached to the manager that we have, and having a new manager can be really, really tough. I don't know if in the chat too, if any of you want to add some areas that constitute as change that I might not mention, you're welcome to do that as well, because we're all experts on this call, right? So a new team member is another one that can be, it might seem like intuitively like, oh gosh, this is a really good thing for the organization. We have a new team member. They're going to pick up all this work. But there are people on the team that are going to feel a little bit uncomfortable with a new team member. Maybe they like the vibe on the team. Maybe they like the person that person is replacing and that was their bestie at work, right? Or maybe they want the job that person has, or may feel a little insecure about having someone else join. So again, that might seem like a really good thing for us, the rest of us, but for certain people, it may be more difficult, and it does constitute as one of these changes. Well, an acquisition or merger, that's a pretty obvious one that causes people discomfort, especially when they see that there's certain jobs that already may be being done, like they have the same job title as someone else. So that can be a very, very difficult one. And it's not always the case, but often people know that an acquisition or merger does lead to layoffs. So of course, now restructuring and layoffs. And it's interesting working with organizations and having gone through this and seen this happen in so many organizations over the course of my career. People know it's coming. Things are happening. The signs are there. So projects stop getting invested in. People are told to stop work on certain things. Certain people there's a hiring freeze. These are all indicators, and people are going to be really aware that this is happening often before the organization wants them to be aware. So this is something that often we see when we have restructuring and layoffs. And I see a little action happening in the chat. Yep, there is, I see here, anxiety. When staffing came in to staff a new project, knowing there's an end date, excitement mixed with apprehension. So it's complicated, right? It's very complicated. So it can be very hard on people. And the thing is, as I said, there's certain obvious things that are uncomfortable, but then certainly there's things that seem less uncomfortable that are in fact very difficult for people to manage. HR plays a critical role as coach. So there is a lot, and a lot of the HR folks that I work with, they're amazing coaches, and they really take time to think about, what are the implications as well psychologically, who can I help and support? And sometimes it can be really, really, it's very hard on HR when there are layoffs and restructuring, especially if it's something that you're not used to doing. I've had to lay people off before, and I'll tell you, sometimes I didn't sleep for a week properly before it happened. It's never a good feeling, but you also do play that role as coach to the organization. So you're not just dealing with your own feelings, you're helping everyone else around you. And it's important to recognize the people who are in control of the change do not always feel the same way as those impacted by it, because we were talking about helplessness before. And the people who are in control of the change are obviously not going to be feeling necessarily that sense of helplessness. So what is some useful advice for offboarding and when we're managing change? Well, one of the first things I want to point out is coming back to this change curve. So leader will come to you, maybe as an HR person, you're also on the leadership team, so it's important to be aware of. Once the change is announced, the management who've known about it, they might have known about it for months and months and months before they're talking to you or anyone else about it. So they're right at the end of this change curve. They're starting to feel better again about everything. But guess what? They just want it done. And they want it done because they've had to deal with all of the other roller coaster of emotions that led to this point. But everybody else is kind of at the starting gate, including HR, if you're just learning about it. So I think part of HR's role when we're doing restructuring and layoffs and leading that process is coaching managers and leaders to think, hey, you've already had time to process this. This is new information, and it's going to be new information to our employees who we still need them to be productive. And we want to take care of them, right? So how do we go through this process and and this is kind of when people start trying to speed through things, this is when mistakes can happen. Contracts really need to be looked over, severance packages, exit packages. It's really important to get all of these things right. So that's a really good time to kind of coach them on, hey, I know you're ready to go, but please let's take a pause here. So we want to coach leaders to understand this change curve and how rushing may impact employees, but also may impact the organization. As I said, if all the I's are dotted and T's are not crossed. I know a lot of you know that Nina Gupta and I from Gowling WLG run coffee and law sessions together. So I'm pretty well versed. I mean, I don't know nearly enough about employment law to have any expertise to share in that area, but I do know just enough to be dangerous, but enough to know what can happen when people rush and don't do the due diligence they need. We want to communicate early and often, which I know is so difficult when it comes to layoffs, but we can mitigate the risk that helplessness can cause by making people feel a little more power over their own outcome. So the sooner we have information that we can share, the better. And the sooner, as we don't want to rush, but the sooner we can take action, also the better. We want to offer outplacement. I can't be objective here, right? But there are so many benefits, and I'm going to talk about some of the risks that outplacement helps us mitigate as organizations. And don't forget the people who are left behind, right? As I said, I run retention interventions and go in and speak to employees about their experiences with their employer, what's best, what's worse. We use all kinds of projection techniques to find out what's really going on under the surface. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years of doing this is that when layoffs happen, people hold on to that baggage for a very, very long time. It does continue to affect their engagement with the organization, and it continues to affect their productivity. But there are ways to mitigate that risk for sure, and I know that one of them is offering outplacement. So what kinds of risk does it mitigate? Well, certainly legal risk to your business. I know sometimes that our HR clients do have trouble selling this into the rest of the organization. And we're always being asked about, okay, like, what are the benefits? What can I take back? Well, this is a lot of them right here. Mitigates the legal risk to your business if someone were to take legal action against their organization, judges love to see that outplacement has been offered. That's a really good goodwill on the part of the employer, and they like to see that. I know that from galling as well. Decreases the impact on resources. So if you have someone who's disgruntled leaving the organization, you may be hearing from them again, right? So you're going to get a lot of notes. Legal is going to get a lot of notes, and that can be difficult for an employer to manage when we want our employees in HR and legal to be focused on the future of the business. It can be a real time drain, energy drain, and resource drain. It reduces the risk of, poor Glassdoor and Indeed ratings, so that can affect your employer brand. But we can also get social media, people going on social media and saying terrible things about their previous employer and naming them by name. You would think that people wouldn't do that, but sometimes they do. And that's going to also, if you have a consumer brand, that might affect your overall brand, not just your employer brand. There's some employees we definitely don't want to lose, right? So we don't want to lose our top talent. And we also want to make sure that employees stay engaged. And when we offer outplacement, it does have a positive impact on the employees left behind for two reasons. One is, if I know that you're going to take care of me, I'm going to feel better about working with the business, because I'm like, okay, things happen, right? But I know this employer is going to help me succeed going forward, even though my job no longer exists in this organization. And people don't disappear once they leave your organization. They're still around. They're still friends. It's so easy to communicate these days. They probably still stay in touch with a lot of the employees. And hearing that they've got great outplacement support and career transition help, and they're getting started and landing their next job, it's a really good feeling. We don't want to see people in distress. We want to see them succeed after they leave the organization. Let's take a quick look inside First30's outplacement program. So when you work with us, first of all, it's super simple. I know a couple of our clients are here today. I know you don't want to shout out that you might be offering outplacement, but we have a very, very easy process. We send you a letter to include with your exit packages, depending on the program you choose, because we have a number of different programs that we offer. And you fill out a tracker with the person's first name, last time. We'll update, don't worry, we'll update everything for you here. And then their email address, we need to reach out to them as well. And then we have different programs that you can offer. So some include what I'm going to show you, a lot of resources, access to our career transition and learning portal. And we also have an option for one-to-one coaching and resume reviews. And our resume reviews, so Camara has this amazing process that she leads where she will take resumes and she'll take 2 job ads. And all of our coaches in the First30 program are trained in the same way to work with our participants, and they're also vetted by us. And so what they do is they take the resumes and they record themselves reviewing the resumes, and they match them to 2 job ads that the participant has chosen. the participant gets back their resume that's reviewed, and they also get the video of that review happening so that they can understand what to change, but also why those changes are being recommended. So it's a very thorough process for the resume reviews. So I'll take you inside our program here. I'll just click on this to get the video started. So this is what you're looking at here is inside our learning portal. So our participants are also getting this information via email too, so they can decide whether to lean forward and log on or download resources via email as well. And as you can see, we have all kinds of resources that they can access here. And some of them I really love. One of them is the signal flare approach to job searching. So this really helps them they have this unique advantage because they can look for work overtly. That's one thing. So they can post on LinkedIn, right? They can post to LinkedIn, they can write to people and let them know that they're looking. So we kind of help try and guide them through this process of, putting it out there in a way that people will be receptive to them. We also have another, of course, we have a LinkedIn course, we have a resume writing course, we have all kinds of resume resources that are being sent to them, including a template as well. And we have this resource, which is Storytelling Your Way to Interview Success. We found this really helps our participants is part of their preparation when they go to interviews it's more memorable when they've kind of written out their experience as a story, and it gets them to, tell stories in the job interview, which interviewers, we have a great connection with people when we tell stories. And so it helps them really stand out in the interview process, and it eliminates some of those nerves. I know that our participants are always nervous about forgetting key information, and this really does help with memorability. So it solves two problems at once. And as you can see, there's just a lot of different resources here. And, every day they'll have a little video for a minute or two. We'll talk about the resource for the day, and then they will be able to access all of those resources as well. So we make sure that we store everything. One thing we found is when people have been laid off, it's very stressful. They don't want to go somewhere and have all of these different options for, 10 different LinkedIn courses to take, depending on where they're at with LinkedIn. They don't want choice can be a good thing, but you kind of want to have some guidance as well. So we try to limit everything. So there's one LinkedIn course, a resume template, not 10 different templates to choose from. We have one that Camara has expertly designed that works really, really well. So everything is organized in a resource library. Again, they have access to this. They in fact have access to this platform for a year. We don't like to rush people through the program, and they can access any of the resources on here for up to a year. And as you can see, it's super simple to get them. So that is our platform. And of course, as I said, they're getting all of these resources via email as well. So let me just get back to my little presentation here. I'm always afraid to push an X on the screen when I'm presenting to people, especially in this setting, because all of a sudden I might exit myself out of the system. So that is our portal. And the pricing, we are transparent and consistent with all of our pricing. Sorry, I'm going to go back as I say that. Block it out. But we have different programs to choose from. And as you can see, the pricing starts at $500 per participant. We offered pricing discounts, volume discounts. So if you want to talk to us about a prepaid bundle, I know it's the end of the year, so maybe you're going to lay off at least 5 or 10 people next year. You can pre-plan for that. We can prepay, and then we'll make sure that you get all of the credits that are allotted to you, and you'll have saved money on that as well. So I'm happy to talk to you about that. We often get asked this question, so I thought I'd put it in here. What if participants don't engage? And as I said before, we're consistent and transparent. We do the same thing for every client. If your participants do not engage with the live aspects of the program, you will not pay for the live aspects of the program. So that would mean that every participant who goes through would be considered a light participant, and that's what you would get billed for. after about a month, because they have a month to engage, but they actually can, we don't actually cut people off of coaching. We often connect with them on LinkedIn. We follow their career journey. It's pretty exciting for us. These are human beings, right, that we're dealing with. But if they don't start engaging with us before a month, they're warned many times that the clock is ticking to book that first session, but not to participate in the program. Then you will get your invoice at the end of that month, and we will clearly outline for you who has and has not engaged. We can't share much more because of confidentiality, but you will see that, and that's what we will how we will bill you. Will we need to sign a contract? We don't make you sign a contract. And we're also happy if you've already got an outplacement supplier and you want to try out First30, we're happy to work alongside another supplier. So maybe you want to have your one supplier that you're using for executive. We're happy to work with your entry level and mid-level employees. That is absolutely fine with us. So some of our clients have done that, but the cost savings, as you can see, is significant for a very similar service. So often they'll stick with us, which is great. How many participants can you accommodate? We make sure that we resource, and we will let you know if for any reason, if you're laying off 80 people, we'll make sure that we plan for that. So we just like a little bit of a heads up in advance. Of course, all of our conversations are confidential. And our success rate is amazing. So about 90% of our participants are back to meaningful work within 3 months. And we know this because we often stay in touch with them. We will go back and look at their LinkedIn profiles. We obviously can't share that information with employers if they've told us directly, but not posted it in social media. But we certainly will. If you are looking for a scorecard or whatnot, we're happy to share that with you if they have posted on social media that they have a new job, for sure. And Camara will put in my details into the chat where you can either email me or you can book a 30-minute meeting with me if you want to go over the finer points or talk specifically about your business as well. I'm just going to quickly check on the chat and see if there's, oh, thanks, Camara. I see that you've, oh, thanks, Level. So we do have one of our clients here. I thank you for sharing that experience. We do really like to think that when we work with our clients, it's not like you're calling us and it's like, oh, I have to call my supplier and it's going to be difficult. We make it really, really easy. And we like to see our clients succeed in their organizations as well. One of our goals is to make our HR clients look like rock stars in their organization. So we take those extra steps to make that happen, including running all of our webinars. If you've come to some of our webinars, you'll see it's not about this all the time. This is unique, where we're sharing our services, but generally speaking, we just have really great informative webinars with amazing guests as well. Let's shift gears to talk about employee onboarding, which is a really exciting subject, maybe a little more exciting than outplacement, even though I'm pretty excited about it. So I'm going to share with you some ideas and ways to kind of maybe modify, refresh, or revamp your onboarding program that you can take action on almost right away with some of them. Some of them are more complicated than others, and we're certainly here to help if you need help. But we want to get our employees excited before day one. I call this, often people ask me, like, when does the onboarding process begin in your mind? And some people argue that it begins when you have those first candidate interactions. I think those are really important, but we really want to get our employees. But when onboarding starts, I think, is when the offer letter is signed. That's when we want to get that pre-boarding started. Not to say the candidate experience isn't incredibly important, it is. That's just not what we consider as onboarding. So how do we get our employees excited even before they walk in the door of the organization? Well, one of the things we love to see organizations do is connect them with a new hire buddy. We have all kinds of parameters around what we think makes a good buddy, like someone who has a positive performance review, someone who has been with the business probably at least 6 months, maybe even more than a year. And we don't want our buddy having too many buddies because it can be a lot for them to manage depending on how much you hire. Buddy programs can be simple. You can actually do that as a pilot project. So you can have one department that starts doing it, see the success, and then roll it out to the rest of the organization. Because I know it sounds simple when we say, oh, start a buddy program, but that can actually be a lot to manage. I think it can be initiated by HR, but you can get other people in the organization to actually manage that process for you. Maybe people who are looking to kind of take on new challenges, maybe more junior people that want to stand out, they could actually lead that buddy program and it benefits everyone. If you want to get them excited before they start, we love automation at First30. So we really help our clients get more sophisticated on the automation tools, either that they have available or that we can make available. So if you have a new hire and you have 5 emails that you want to send to them, you can actually all you have to do is put them in the system one time and they will get all of those emails. And again, that's something we're happy to help our clients with. But if you have an automation tool that you know how to use in your organization, you can get 3 or 4 emails or whatever it is set up that every new hire will get as soon as they sign their offer letter over, you can make it so they come one comes one day, the next one comes a few days later. You can send them fun facts about the business. You can send them engagement results. You can send them your mission, vision, values. You can send them ads that you've put together. Some of the content that you have for marketing could even be good for your new hires as well. Have the manager, I love when managers reach out as soon as that offer letter is signed and say, hey, I saw you sign the offer letter and we are so excited to have you get started. Sometimes they need a little prompting from their HR partner, business partner to do that, but it really does make a difference. Because imagine, once you've accepted an offer, you might be sitting there for weeks, right? Just kind of, oh my gosh, I really haven't heard. Well, I've done my criminal background check, but that's about it. It's not that exciting. It's necessary, but it's not that exciting. So there's nothing stopping organizations from, giving people a little bit of, giving them some fun things about the business too. We at First30 have an email template that we set up for managers so that their HR business partner can send them this template that they can fill out and send to their new hire a few days at least before they start, hopefully about a week. That includes all the pertinent information, like all the things you would want to know going to a new place, like where to park, what metro stop to get off at. Where am I going to get my first coffee of the day? That is really important to a lot of people. And can I eat? Is there going to be food on site? Do I have to bring a lunch? Those things can be really things that we've gotten used to in our organization, but new hires, it will help them feel secure and safe and connect more with the organization if they feel prepared for their first day. Takes a lot of the mystery out of it. So I think avoid overwhelming new hires. It is so tempting to have someone come in and give them all this information all at one time. But it is exhausting for people. It affects their feeling of connection. It affects their memorability. There's a lot we want them to learn. It can affect that learning process. So we recommend that managers build breaks into their new hires schedule. Again, overscheduling is a real thing when new hires start. So we want to make sure that we're coaching managers to do that. The other thing we want to consider with managers, and we're going to talk a little bit more about managers shortly, but your managers might not have hired someone for, years or ever. Right. But I think there's this assumption that everyone knows how to onboard or train new hires. Often they don't. So that's something that we want to consider. And this is one of the ways we can coach our managers to be more successful. Remind them not to forget about lunch. We want them fed and fueled because it helps them feel comfortable and it helps them with the learning process as well. Acknowledge that onboarding a new team member it's also challenging for the manager. As I said, not all managers hire people all the time, but also they've got a job to do. And now they're trying to take on someone else. Training people is really, really tough, takes a lot out of them. So it's how do you help that manager get through the first few weeks with a new hire? One of the things, I don't have it here today, but one of the things that we've gone through in the past is the learning curve and where people, like the process, everyone goes through this process when they're learning something new. And some of that process can be quite frustrating for managers as well, especially when someone thinks they know everything when they get there, that unconscious competence. And so helping coach your manager on things like the learning curve can really help them as well to succeed with their new hires. This is my favorite one of all. It's so simple. And again, it's something you can recommend to your organization or implement tomorrow. Let your new hires start late and finish early if you can the first couple days. It will help them feel like they're going to be confident getting there on time. Their manager will be fresh. They'll have checked all their emails. They'll have had their coffee. They'll have done all of those things that they need to do. So if there's like one big aha from this whole session, I would say it's that, that one. Make it easy to find like the refined resources. That's a really important one as well. So, you know, I think what can happen sometimes too, and I see this a lot with our clients, is they have previously gone from sending one big laundry list email with everything onboarding in it, and people lose that email, they get lost in it, they don't know what thing is, you know, what to click to get where. So we really recommend slowing the process of learning down a little bit. One of the things, and this is again, I hope one that you can implement tomorrow if you have the opportunity, is, and you don't have to create them, I'm going to tell you where you can find them. You can create task-based training videos. We do this sometimes for clients as well. And that's where, you know, you've seen it, you've taken these on, you go to Google, how do I do X? And they take you through this little guided tour and someone's narrating and you see where they're clicking in the background. So you can have that, you can create those. We have software where we can film our screens, so we know how to do that quite easily. But even better, you might have videos already, like your benefits supplier, your payroll suppliers, they probably have training task-based videos that you can share with your new hires. So if you're using a known supplier, which you probably are, take a look and see what training videos, they might even have access to them on YouTube. So take a look for that, and that's something you can share with your new hires. Make sure orientation resources are accessible and look unique in some way. This is one that I think it's a good one. It's not the end all and be all, but we have found before, like one of the ways we can support our clients is by having a platform for them that's specific to onboarding. What you'll see is that your HRIS might say, oh, we have an onboarding module, but HRIS are really good at many things, but they have not prioritized onboarding. So that may not be as useful as you might first think. So I'd look deeply into what they actually offer, because what we found is it kind of has to be built for that. Onboarding is pretty specific. However, all that said, what we found is when we launched our platform and it looked exactly like the intranet of the company, people got lost, right? Because they're like, oh, where am I? Where was that? But when we kept it branded First30, people actually were like, oh yeah, that's First30, even though what they download looks and feels like everything else from their employer, just that, you know, we have quite bright and specific branding that matches, you know, the first month at least. So that's something to consider, is even if you're not working with us, there's maybe some visual cue, like a onboarding specific logo that you can even make with clip art that you put on there so they know that it's an onboarding resource. Locate resources in a place that new hires will remember to find them, not just after the first few days, but after the first 90 days, right? We want them, you know, they're not going to fill in their first benefits form for maybe the first 3 months, especially if they don't have benefits yet. So it's nice for them to be able to find. And the way that I find really helps is one email per onboarding resource. And if you have an email sequencing tool, that's something that you can continue on for 3 months. So you could even send them reminders. Hey, if you're looking to do your first benefits, if you're filling in your first benefit form, here's the information you'll need to get started, and you can have that task-based video there. It sounds very complicated, but I promise you it's actually super simple. We've set these sort of things up a million times. We find it really easy. I know that it wasn't always easy to learn how to do, but it's so impactful. Okay, get your managers engaged. Not always easy to do, but we have some ideas that will help. And again, we can be involved, but we don't have to be. We like to create like a cross-functional onboarding steering committee where managers who have hired people, in the last year or so are involved. You don't have to have every single manager, but at least some from different departments is really good. And because we know that people are far more likely to use a program that they have also helped to create. Create and make available a manager onboarding guide. First30 actually has, Camara might put up, we have 2 guides that are free for you to access. One is, this is not our manager guide, but it is a how to get your new hires off to a great start. So Camara will add that to the chat. We also have a how to run compassionate and effective layoffs guide. Those are both free to download. We have a manager onboarding guide that comes at a cost. We don't have the link. Camara doesn't have the link today, but I'll send you a list of links as well to follow this session, and we'll include that in the link. You can see inside, we have information about the learning curve. That's a really quick win because you only have to buy one from us, and then you've got the PDF and the Word document. You can update it yourself as well. So that might be a really great quick win for you too. But even if you don't work with us, create a manager onboarding guide, continue to check in with your managers. And the other thing that we recommend is, and as I said, we love for our HR network and our clients to look like rock stars in their organizations. One of the things we really want you to do is to get feedback before you implement changes on your onboarding program. And it's important. I know that, tools like SurveyMonkey are great, but we have to know how to use them effectively. Before I ran First30, I spent about 20 years doing both employee and customer research. So I really know how to craft a good, feedback survey. So we want to get feedback that we can benchmark, meaning we have questions that we can compare year over year. And what I want our clients to see is they surveyed their employees before the changes were implemented. So the people that had onboarded within the last 18 months or so, and then once the changes are implemented, they start surveying their new hires, and they can see that lift in satisfaction with the onboarding, which is so great to see. And you might see things that you still need to change, so that can help a lot too. Get feedback from employees who have been hired, but also get feedback from managers on what they need and what's working for them and what is not. And finally, I just kind of pulled this out because I put it up on LinkedIn and it got a lot of positive response. I often see that our clients and organizations will ask about accommodation in the interview process once. And I think that is good. But I think we need to even get better at this and ask about accommodations multiple times. So many people so many disabilities are not visible, and people aren't necessarily feeling comfortable being forthcoming. When they're asked once, they may very well say no. But if you keep asking, it's going to show that you are committed to providing these accommodations and you are open to it. And I do think that makes a huge difference to the connections that people build with your organization and how they're going to feel. So please, this is one thing you can coach your managers on too. Ask again and again and again about accessibility. The other thing is, I don't think this just applies to our new hires. People change through life. We actually, especially people in my generation, we might not have been diagnosed when we were younger. We might learn something new over the years. So people change. So even consider asking your employees every time you have an offsite or a team meeting, having something, just please let us know if you require an accommodation, any accommodations. And we might be surprised what we find out. We actually, I should have mentioned that in our outplacement program, we actually, when our participants book meetings with their coaches, that is a question in our standard template, where we always ask if our participants require accommodations so that we can help meet them where they are and make sure that they have the best possible support. Okay, so the support we offer for employee onboarding, I haven't really dug into the chat, so I apologize. I know Kamara is there. I can get very frazzled looking at the chat and trying to present at the same time, as you can imagine. So I apologize if you have any questions there. I'm not disappearing, as Kamara put up my email, so you're always welcome to email me, connect with me on LinkedIn, talk to me there. You'll find that we are very no pressure. So you know, if you have questions and you just want to have a relaxed conversation about things, that's totally fine. And I can also help advise you on whether you even need our help at all when it comes to onboarding. We start by running a comprehensive employee onboarding audit, and we find out where you stand right now. That actually helps us to write a proposal for you that matches what you need and is costed effectively. You'll see that with our outplacement, we can put all of our costs out there because those services are quite standardized. But when it comes to our onboarding program, you can imagine that's where every company needs something different. So we are happy to make sure that we're accommodating what you need. Then we like to, and this is always, we don't always do everything that I'm mentioning, but I'm just giving you a sense of how we could work together. We conduct a gap analysis and run sessions with hiring managers and possibly even people who are new hires. We can run little focus groups and find out what's working well, what isn't. We can also include some surveying too. I know that organizations say like, oh, we've got too many surveys, but if you're only surveying your new hires, it turns into something very specific. And I think people want to see onboarding programs improve. That's what we found. So people kind of rally around when you want to improve the employee onboarding program. We can collect feedback and also engage with your people leaders in partnership with you, of course. We want all of the great work to look like it's not necessarily coming from us, but coming from our clients. But we kind of help steer the ship in the background so that it's less heavy lifting for you. We'll run, as I said, onboarding feedback surveys and benchmark and help you to measure that impact over time. That doesn't mean you have to stay in a supplier relationship with us forever. What it means is we can set you up so that you can run these surveys on your own over time. And it's really simple. Refresh and create onboarding resources. We can make your resources really shine and be consistent. That's another thing that I didn't mention earlier, but consistency really does breed trust. That's why marketers have such important work to do. Like some of it is branding and making, like, imagine how you would feel if my presentation didn't look good. It was really sloppy. Every slide looked like it was from a different company. You might be like, do I really trust First30 and Amy to lead our process and program? Employees might feel the same way if they see all kinds of resources that look like they're really dated or they don't match each other, even the font being different. It has a psychological impact on people that may not be obvious, but it does really help to have your resources shine. We can help with automating the distribution of email and electronic resources. We can help create a manager guide that's specific to your business. As I said, we have one that will get you off to a great start and has a ton of information in it for managers, but we can also create one that has all of that great information and also includes specifically what your new hires should experience and what's expected of the manager, and all that is specific to your organization. If you reach out, people are always like, oh, who will I speak to? You'll speak to me. So if you reach out and you book time, I know Kamara put up my calendar link in the chat, you will speak to me. And Kamara has the link for our next session. So I'm really excited about this session. So it's all about HR and AI. And we actually have a lawyer from Gowling WLG who's going to be in the chat so that they can also answer any kind of legal, well, it's not legal advice, of course, but they will be there to kind of help give you some insight into the legal implications of using AI with your staff. So I thought I'd mention that at the end of this session, which you're welcome to join it. Any of you who are kind of new to this kind of First 30 community, we have a ton of webinars that we run every year, and we have a great audience at them. And so we'd love to have you join those if the topics are of interest to you. And if you register, we'll also send you the replay to the session as well. This is something I am so excited about. I get asked a lot about starting a new business, and I feel like I can't help everyone in the way that I want. So I actually started a podcast. I know it's like everyone has a podcast these days, but this is really specific to people who are looking to start a new business and I know this may not be the audience for it, but just in case, I know a lot of our clients and my friends in HR are thinking of becoming HR consultants. I'm sure that I'm going to do an episode specifically on that because I get asked about that a lot. So I'll be running that podcast. We've already started recording, but it will launch in the new year. So new year, new podcast. I will make sure that I'm not going to send out a lot of information on the First 30 network about this. I will send a couple updates about it, just in case people are interested. So you'll be able to join that when it tune in when it starts if there's topics that are of interest to you. If you have questions, I'm going to dive into the chat now, but I'm also going to say goodbye because if you don't have questions, I don't want you to have to sit here and wait for me to finish. But Camara, thank you for sharing all of the links and everything in the chat. Camara is just such a great partner in this business and so much appreciated. And thanks to all of you so much for joining. So I'll say bye for now. I'm going to stop the recording and then I'm going to just take a look and make sure